Okay, here we go. It's 12:01. Thanks for bearing with me here. Welcome everyone. It's Monday. Um, Mondays are tricky I don't know if they're tricky for you. They're, tricky for a lot of people that I work with. And there's something about Mondays that involves narratives and ideas of, oh geez, here comes another week, when in reality it is kind of just another day, right? Or it's a completely blank slate and we get to do what we want with Monday. So for our mindfulness practice today, here's the theme that I wanted to focus on. It has to do with thoughts. So thoughts are these really peculiar events, these subjective experiences, and we all have them. And I just wanted to point out a few things about them. The first thing is, whenever we're awake, we are experiencing thoughts, whether we are aware of it or not. It's a never-ending hamster wheel that's taking place between our ears. And the only time I know that I'm not thinking is when I'm asleep. And even there, I wonder sometimes, I don't know enough about dreams and thoughts and the difference between them. But right, there's also that experience of, even sometimes when I'm sleeping or at rest, there's something that's akin to thinking that's going on. They are involuntary. Now, it is true that I'll give you an example. If I say the word Eiffel Tower, most of you involuntarily had a picture of the Eiffel Tower appear in your mind's eye, or something. And again, did you choose that, or is that something that I somehow sneakily inserted into your mind? And so imagine that's happening all the time. You go to the grocery store, you have a conversation with someone, you see something online, um, you name it. It's just constantly happening, and it's not really something that we are creating. It's happening to us. So that's the point there. And they clearly affect our subjective experience in every given moment. So our mood, our sense of positivity, our sense of negativity, all of that is affected by these events that happen all the time. They're involuntary, they just happen to us, and yet they're jerking us around in one way or another. Unfortunately, given our negativity bias, more often than not, there's a bias towards, oh, this isn't good, this isn't, and we feel it in our body, right? So it leaves a physical imprint. So if you do the math, if you're a geek like me and you actually sit down and say, gosh, these thoughts, what's the deal with them? Um, and here's how I got to these numbers. I said, okay, let's say I'm lucky and I get 8 hours of sleep, which, by the way, rarely happens. But let's say I'm awake for 16 hours a day. And during those 16 hours, I'm experiencing, let's say, um, one of these thought experiences every couple of seconds. If you multiply that out, it comes out to a little less than 30,000. I'd say on most days, I'm having way more than just one thought every couple of seconds. So it's pretty easy to, certainly double that number. So even 50,000 is potentially conservative. And if we're really going through something and our mind is really active, we're stressed, we're working on a difficult project and so forth, this is just, this machine is just running rampant, right? So here we are every day, we're experiencing 50-ish, 40 to 50-ish thousand of these experiences that completely affect our subjective state of positivity or negativity, our actions, our everything is activated by these. So the intention here is not to depress you, but it's just to kind of look at it and say, wow, okay, so what do we do with these things called thoughts? And I want to introduce this concept here. This is a term in psychology called ego depletion. And what it really refers to is that this idea of self-control and willpower, right? So when we're having these difficult thoughts, it's like, oh gosh, not this again. I should be able to deal with this differently, or I shouldn't be so negative, or, this ability to manage and maintain, so to contain the impact of these thoughts, we could call this self-control and willpower. And here's what we found. These are limited resources, meaning if we spend a lot of our morning managing and trying to sort of contain the impact of these thoughts, probably by about mid-afternoon, we're exhausted. And that's when we start doing things like, screw it. I'm gonna go get that bottle of alcohol or whatever. I'll whatever behaviors that we have that are the sort of the outcome or the fallout of ego depletion, that's when they kick in. So what do we do about it? And the answer is we can practice mindfulness. And I'm going to focus on a few different pieces of mindfulness. So it's first and foremost, it's just the awareness that there is this constant stream of thinking that is happening. That's step number one, is just to slow down, close our eyes, bring our attention inward, and just pay attention to, wow, there it is again, a new thought, new imagery. Oh, it just shifted. Now I've moved on to something else. That awareness is key. And the next piece is cultivating kind of non-reactive acceptance of these thoughts. Remember, they're involuntary, they happen. I'm not choosing to make them happen. So does it make sense for me to react to every thought that I had? Probably not, right? So there's something very powerful about being able to look at it and say, okay, I see that's all happening, but I don't need to buy into it, let alone act on it. Right. And then resilience is also this capacity to not take them personally. Again, they're involuntary, they appear out of nowhere. None of us have any idea what we're going to be thinking about in 3 minutes or 10 minutes, let alone this evening or tomorrow. We're just kind of at the whim of this stuff happening. So building up resilience to be able to be with whatever's happening, I think is a really key component. So let's practice that for the time that we have left. So let's start by closing your eyes. Take stock of the body, the feet, hands, the legs, upper torso, belly and chest, and the head. What I mean by taking stock is just notice. This is what it's like to have these body parts, to be conscious and notice that these body parts are part of the experience. There's a feeling tone to all of that. We're just taking that in. Notice the body breathing. And then very gently shift that attentional gaze to the mind and thoughts. What I mean with that is just sit back, imagine you're in a movie theater in a comfortable chair, and just patiently watch and wait. And notice what's playing out on that screen. And if it feels blank at first, just wait. I promise you the thoughts will appear. So this first step, the awareness, is simply noticing that this is happening all the time. Nothing to do other than notice. So remaining tethered to the body is really helpful in parsing out the difference between this sort of sensory experience right here, right now, and the mind thinking. and connected to the body, contact with the floor, and the chair. From that vantage point, begin to notice the mind thinking. Maybe you'll notice that it's constantly changing. There's a juiciness to most thoughts. There's a almost like a compulsion for us to want to attach to that thought and go deeper and say, oh, okay, so now what? What should I do? And that then feeds more thoughts. Just notice that. If you suddenly find yourself lost in thought or thoughts, meaning you sort of went down the rabbit hole, the thoughts happened, the narrative happened, and you started going down that path. Again, simply notice that and see if you can sort of take the seat in the movie theater again. Just take a step back and remember this is just a movie. The movie's not me. I don't need to believe everything that's playing itself out on the screen because I'm over here sitting in the seat watching all of this happen. And the last, ironically, thought that I want to insert into this process we're in right now is realizing that none of this is personal. It feels personal so often, but it's not. We're not choosing the thoughts. We're not choosing the movie. We're not choosing the emotional or sensory reactivity. Let's take a deep breath in. Long, slow exhale. Hold the exhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And go ahead and open your eyes. Um, Before we leave the subject, it's hard to do this in 15 minutes or less, but it's a this is such a foundational practice, I think, for positivity in general. Our ability to simply see what is happening in our mind and realizing it's not personal, it's happening. Um, it's just something that is Yeah, it's this is a practice, right? This really takes practice to just be with and sit. And more often than not, it's inevitable that we get wrapped up in the content and we go down the rabbit hole and we engage in all of it. And that's totally normal. But there's some real freedom that comes with being able to notice that the mind is just thinking and it doesn't define us. So um, I see that there's some questions. I just want to quickly remind everyone tomorrow, community integration group with Brenda at 6:30. Everyone's invited. Brenda's an amazing facilitator. And if you're interested in just exploring this, feel free to just go to this link, citclinics.com/integration and participate. Other than that, I'll stick around for a few more minutes. I'm over time. It was 17 minutes of positivity today. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Take care. My pleasure. Yep.
Thanks, Ollie.